Good evening. Welcome to tonight's meeting of the Board of Zoning Appeals for December the 13th, 2023. If you would call the roll, please, Joanne.
Kelly Cruz Nicholson,
Here.
Sayward Salazar, Rob Tidrow,
Here.
Jeff Cook,
Here.
Ann Snyder.
Here.
If everybody will stand and recite the pledge with me, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Kim, do we have, we had the minutes in our packet. If there's no changes or alterations, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I move to accept the minutes from November 8th, 2023, as presented.
Second it.
A motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Kim, do we have proof of publication for tonight's meeting?
Yes, thank you. This notice was published in advance. It states the time, date, place, and the items on the agenda for tonight's hearing. The notice is in order to hold public hearings, and I would ask the board to make a motion to accept the proof of publication.
I'd entertain that motion.
So
I'll make the
moved.
motion.
Oh, second?
And a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Minutes or proof of publication is approved. New business for tonight is BZA 37-2023, the petition of Anthony and Amy Farley, and A+ Signs is the agent requesting a variance of development standards. Petitioner here. State your name and address for the record, please.
My name's Ed Thompson with A+ Signs, 920 Progress Drive here in Richmond. Requesting a variance to reduce the setbacks to 2 feet on a general commercial zone property for a 19 square foot monument or ground sign. If anybody has any questions, be glad to answer them.
Any questions of the petitioner?
None.
No question.
With that, we'll open up public hearing. Is there anybody wishing to speak for or against BZA 37-2023? Close public hearing and hear the staff report.
Thank you, Mr. President. BZA 37 is the petition of Anthony and Amy Farley, owners, A+ Signs LLC agent, located at 1821 West Main Street in Richmond, requesting a variance of development standards to reduce minimum front and side yard setback requirements for a ground sign in the general commercial zoning district. Current use is commercial office building. Zoning is general commercial. The lot size is 0.2479 acres. Adjacent zoning in all directions is general commercial. Adjacent land use to the north is commercial small retail. To the south and east is single-family residential, and to the west is commercial office building. The proposed variance would reduce the minimum front and side yard setbacks for a ground sign in the general commercial district from 10 feet to approximately 2 feet from both the front and west property lines. On November 29th, 2023, the public hearing was advertised in Western Wayne News. On November 27th, 17 adjacent property owners were notified about the variance and public hearing by mail. We received 3 responses.
The first one is from Ashley Likens at the Head Start Building at 1845 West Main, in favor. She says it does not hinder operations. Michael Fisher, 1835 West Main Street, he's in favor. Jill Burns at 1836 West Main, she's in favor.
Planning staff consulted with all city departments and utilities to determine any objections based on public health and safety. No health and safety objections were raised. Staff recommends approving the petition to reduce the minimum front and side yard setbacks for a ground sign in the general commercial district based on the following findings of fact. Number 1, the approval of the variance will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community because the proposed ground sign will be approximately 7 feet from the sidewalk and 12 feet from West Main Street and should therefore not create a physical or visual barrier for vehicular or pedestrian traffic. Further, the location of the sign should not create any visual interference for vehicles exiting onto West Main Street from the subject property or the adjacent property to the west. Number 2, the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner because the area surrounding 1821 West Main Street includes a variety of legal nonconforming signs, including the State Farm pole sign located approximately 9 feet west of the proposed sign, and a ground sign across the right-of-way at 1818 West Main Street that is also located approximately 2 feet from its front property line. Adding a new ground sign at the proposed location will have minimal impact on the use and value of adjacent properties. And number 3, the strict application of the terms of the ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property because the subject property has limited space to install a sign of any kind, and the existing planting bed on the west end of the property is the only feasible location that would not interfere with the lot's parking capacity. There are no rent commitments, and I'd be happy to address any questions you may have.
Any questions of the staff? No. There are no questions to the staff. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion, Chairman, to approve BZA 3723, including the finding of facts.
Go ahead and second that.
A motion and a second to approve BZA 37-23 along with the finding of fact. Would you call the roll, please?
Kelly Cruz Nicholson,
Aye.
Rob Tidrow,
Aye.
Aye.
Ann Snyder.
Aye.
Motion carries. Good luck. Next up on the agenda is BZA 38-2023, the petition of Chester Boulevard Sales and Development LLC, and the agent requesting 5 variances of development standards. If you would state your name and address for the record and tell us about your progress.
Sir, my name is Jonathan Woker. I'm a planner with McBride Dale Clarion. My address is 5721 Dragon Way, Suite 300, Cincinnati, Ohio, 45227. I also have Jonathan Haley here. He is a real estate project manager with Quick Trip. And I know that you have a presentation from your staff, but I'm going to go over briefly what we're asking for. We are asking for sign variances. Before I get into that, let me give you a little bit of background about the project. So Quick Trip has a contract to purchase approximately 11 acres of property at the northwest corner of Chester Boulevard and I-70. It's the former auto use, and then there's existing house and some wooded area. So we're going to be consolidating a portion of 4 parcels to create that 11-acre property. And then the plan would be to build a Quick Trip convenience store that would have approximately 8,300 square feet of the store, and then we would have auto fuel in front and some truck fueling behind. And so the auto would have 8 dispenser islands, and then we'd have 5 lanes for trucks in the back. And then we have a few parking spaces for trucks in the back, and then we have parking for the auto customers around the store. Quick Trip's a little new to this market. They have about 1,100 stores in their portfolio. They're starting to move into Indiana and in the Ohio region. They're well-respected and highly regarded as a private company, headquartered out of Tulsa, and we can give you more background, but just want to give you some feeling for that. This project would be about an $8 to $10 million investment, and generally employs about 40 people at the store. So that gives you a quick background, and I can talk about that more. We are a permitted use in the district that we're in for that property. We're asking for variances that relate to signs, and so they all kind of consolidate together. We've got some variances related to the number of signs for the store. This slide shows, if you go back one, I'm sorry, Dustin. This shows the locations of the signs. So we've got 5 signs on the store, and I believe we're allowed 4 by code. So we've got 3 on the front. The front would say Quick Trip, and then there's 2 logos on the side of that. That front would face Chester Boulevard. And then we would have a sign on the south, which would be the left side of the slide, and then a sign on the north, which would be the right side of the slide. Those would be Quick Trips. And if you could go to so this is actually the elevation. So the building is masonry, finished on all 4 sides. We've got some articulation. You can see we've got a parapet, and it's a little bit tricky. The signs you see on the side elevation, they're actually behind a glass panel. So a lot of communities don't consider those to be wall signs, but we wanted to make sure we're presenting a full picture to you. But this is what we're asking for. So we feel that the signs are well coordinated with the building design, not overly flashy, and really because we've got circulation and entrances on 3 sides, it's important to have those signs. So that's part 1 of the variances. If you could go to the next slide. The other variances have to do with an interstate sign that we're asking for. You can see that in the upper corner of that slide. So for perspective, that's going to be our western corner of our property closest to the interstate. So as you come onto the westbound ramp from Chester Boulevard, as you start to merge onto I-70, that's about the corner of where our property would be. So that's where the interstate sign would be. The other sign that I want to highlight is the monument sign. So that would be near the entrance, or I'm sorry, the frontage on Chester. You'll see we don't have an entrance on Chester. We're going to come in from the side street, and we're asking for a monument sign there. And then the other directional signs, which I understand the staff is interpreting as being permitted, but we want to, again, give you a full picture. So if you could go to the next slide. This is the interstate sign. It's proposed to be 100 feet tall. It's 473 square feet. You probably have seen these interstate signs before. That's a big sign, but as you get higher in the air, they need to be that size in order to be visible. And I'd like to hand out, if I can, some additional information, kind of give you a perspective. I'm going to give you 1, 2. There's enough plus some for the staff. And what you'll see in this handout, if you go to the second page, and I apologize, I don't have it on a slide, but we've done a street view analysis. I don't want to pretend like this is a scientific evaluation, but what we've done is we've used available data from Google Earth and from street views, and then we've modeled the size of the sign and the height. And what you can see from those exhibits, we won't have a visibility issue from westbound. So westbound, as you head toward the store, eastbound as you're heading towards the store, there's not an elevation issue. And so you'll have good visibility of the site and of the sign. Eastbound, as you're about to leave Richmond, you're going to pass the interstate, there's a challenge there. And you have less visibility from that sign. What we're trying to achieve is a height that gives our customers the ability to make a decision and make that exit beforehand. And so primarily, again, for trucks. So trucks take longer to change lanes, and they need to make a decision a little bit longer than cars do. And actually, they're pretty used to looking for those signs. So even though you'll see in those images that I've provided for the westbound direction, you can barely see the sign, but it's important to be able to see that and make that decision, and then they'll be able to get into the exit lane. So I understand staff's recommended reduction in the height to 80 feet. We're proposing 100 because we think the higher elevation gives us a better view westbound. I think it's going to be a challenge, whatever height we're at, but we're willing to work with the board on that. But we think 100 feet makes sense and gives us a better chance to succeed. And really what it comes down to is being able to have our customers see our site, make that decision safely, and make that exit in time. And if we can go to the next slide, this is the monument sign. We're asking for, it's 13 feet 11, so let's call it 14 feet. So it's just under 14 feet tall. We have an image that I just handed out. One of the conditions is that we would put a masonry base on it and landscaping. So we've tried to illustrate that. We would agree to that written condition and intend to do that. So again, Chester Boulevard traffic is pretty fast, and we think having the sign on there is important. There's a median there, and we're hoping that we can make clear decisions for our customers. They can see the prices from either side of the road, whether they're headed northbound or southbound. Make that left at the break in the median, or make a decision before they get to the ramp to turn in. So we think that it's justified to have that sign. I think the last slide is directional signs, just gives you an idea. You know, we're not trying to add advertising, we just want to have our trucks come in the right direction. So, you know, we do our best to separate the auto and truck traffic internally, so that we reduce some friction there between our customers. I will say this is not a full truck stop, right? So we're not doing what Love's or Travel America or some of those other bigger facilities have. Those trucks, they would have showers, they would have laundry facilities and repair facilities and so on. We don't have those. We do have about 12 or 15 parking spaces. It's really for a quick trip. You know, I don't want to be a pun on that, but we're intending to get people to fill up, come in, grab some food. We have an inside food service. We won't have a branded Wendy's or Subway or other fast food, but we will have, you know, made-to-order foods that they can order and hot or cold sandwiches and paninis and things like that. But I think it's important to realize this is not the same scale as a Love's, and we really don't have that same impact. So I think I've covered the pieces I wanted to cover. I will say we did submit some justifications for our variance, and we support the findings from the staff report and would agree to those conditions as well. So I'll try and answer questions if you have them, or come back up if that happens.
I just have one question, and it's actually not about signs, just goes back to where you said the entrance would be. So you're not going to have an entrance off of US 27, they're going to have to actually turn onto Highland Road, correct?
Correct, ma'am.
Okay.
Yep. And I believe, if you can see, we would have multiple driveways on Highland. Cars can come in either way, but typically they segregate themselves, and the trucks go to the one to the west and the autos to the east.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Chairman, I have two questions.
Please.
One is, so you're agreeing with the written commitment of going to an 80-foot pole as opposed to 100?
Yeah, so we've had some correspondence since the staff report was written. I understand that the city has approved Love's at 80 feet. An 80-foot sign would be acceptable to us. We think that 100-foot is going to be better. I think we've got some challenges that maybe Love's didn't. They are sitting further from the highway. They've kind of got a wide open view once you get there. We do have a challenge grade-wise, so if the board, we would accept 80 feet, but we think 100 feet is appropriate and justified in this location.
My second question,
Yes, sir.
Dustin, do we remember, do we have a variance for the cross for the church that was up across from the Highland Golf Course? That was before your time, I think.
That may have been pre-UDO, however,
Okay.
and
I think it was just.
that giant cross.
No, we
It's just-
did. They're on Highland Road. We had
recent,
a,
yeah.
there was a variance for that
And was,
Do you remember what year that was?
a couple years ago.
I've been on, yeah, so it's been
Yeah.
within 2 years at least. But do we remember how tall that is?
I think they shrunk it down based
Okay.
on some concerns with RP&L and me based on the location
Oh, that's
of
right.
the substation. I think
Okay, I
it
remember
went,
that now.
I think it's either 60 or 70 feet.
Okay.
So it's shorter than what they're
Okay.
proposing.
I think we got a lot of pushback on that one, if I remember, because I do remember that one now, yes.
Yeah. I mean, I know you've got a grade going up, as you're heading west, you can't see anything until you kind of top out. That might be, and the lane is right there, to merge out or to
We've
move
kind
off.
of, and
but-
I don't mean to steal any thunder from Dustin's staff report. I mean, part of it is that we're sitting the sign further from Chester, kind of tucked away. So you'll be able to see the sign on Chester, but it won't be right up on front. We're getting rid of 3 really ugly poles, I think you'll find.
Old enough to
our
remember the Texaco station that was there.
Probably. And that, we were looking at it today, I would estimate those poles are probably 70 or 80 feet tall themselves. And so you put a cabinet on top of it, and that's probably would have been 100-ish. Again, I don't want to pretend that I know that, but, yeah, we think
And I know that.
if we put it at the front corner, then it would be right on the street and might give us better visibility for westbound, but we think the location's the right one.
Another question?
Please? Yeah.
And Dustin, sorry, why the 80 feet as opposed to 100?
So I did use the 80-foot just because of the precedent set by Love's.
By Love's.
So I have since, in the last week, had discussions with a few people about the topography and the elevation at this location,
Dustin
including
and I
with Jeff.
traded quite a few emails back and forth.
Yeah, and so, I mean, what Mr. Wilker is saying is correct. They do face challenges that are a little bit different than what Love's did. I had our GIS coordinator, Thomas, do the math on some of this, and he put this map together earlier today just to provide some additional context, and I can try to explain this. So he kind of created a map that basically is intended to show where the sign is visible based on the height of the sign. So all of the yellow that you see here, this would be the visibility for an 80-foot sign. And as you can see, as far as westbound traffic on I-70, that's not going to be visible. However, the green here, this is a 100-foot sign, and that too really is not going to be very visible for westbound traffic. As you can see on the blown up part here, that really doesn't become visible until you've already passed the beginning of the exit ramp. And then, excuse me, even the blue here is a hypothetical 120-foot sign. It's also not visible. So this isn't to recommend a sign taller than 120 feet necessarily, but it's to kind of give you some additional context of the challenges they face as far as westbound visibility here on I-70.
Dustin, are you saying that then that the 100 feet isn't out of the realm of a solution, or?
Well, as far as if the goal of the increased height is to attract or is to increase visibility for westbound traffic, I'm not sure if it's actually functioning that way.
And just to bring the rest of the board into Dustin and I's correspondence, when I got the packet, I drove that area knowing that there was topo challenges and elevation challenges from the 227 ramp being a low spot on 70, right where you enter the interstate, to as it goes uphill twice and kind of flattens out right at the decision point for the off-ramp to Chester Boulevard. And then even as you go to the west side of the interchange, the ground then tapers down again. So I shot Dustin a quick email Thursday evening and Wednesday or Thursday evening and asked why. The same question that was asked earlier, was that just because of Love's, or was there rhyme and reason? He was honest, same thing he said tonight, based on the Love's variance. So I told him about my concerns, because I'm in favor of all signs, just so you know. Explain my concerns about the uphill and then the downhill. And then, I think it was Friday, I jumped into GIS and turned on the 10-foot contours so you get the topo. And I'm kind of in agreement with Dustin now that I look about it and think about it, even at 100 foot, because you're going to drop off about 30 feet on the other side from where the ramp is, based on where you're at. I don't know that 100 feet will get there. I'm in favor of 100 feet, just to hedge your bet for you. But
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
I will, I've said my piece, and the board can take into consideration that or not. I'm not married to any decision, but I would vote in favor of either or.
Well, and I appreciate the explanation and the city's willingness to evaluate this. The reason to provide this, and this is not scientific, but it's close, right? So it's within 10 percentages, some percentage of visibility. And where we put these views, this is the westbound view, we tried to put those, again, on street view with a height and elevation at some of these decision points. So the second view is right before you get to the exit sign. So the ramp has started, but it's really just the taper. That's where this number 1 is. And at that point, you have some visibility of it, and that's at 100. You know, the interesting thing about these signs, they're not inexpensive. I mean, these are multi-$100,000. I mean, this will probably be a couple $100,000 sign. And so the irony is that we don't want to build it any taller than we have to, right? Because every time you add 10 feet, you're adding 40 grand, something like that, right? But we also don't want to make that investment and not have it be worth the investment. So I guess that's a long way of me saying, if you think 120, we would make the additional investment for 120 feet. We kind of done what Dustin did. We kind of tried to find a sweet spot where we thought the city was comfortable, and we want to succeed is the bottom line. So I think if you continue to reduce the height, at some point it becomes not worth it. But you know, at 100 or even 120, we think we'll get the visibility that's worth the investment, and we'll pay off with the decisions we're trying to get. Appreciate you listening to me.
I was gonna ask.
When we get to public hearing, did you want to say anything as?
Only if you got questions.
I just wanted to know if you wanted to make comment. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
With that, I'll open up public hearing for anybody that wishes to speak in favor or against.
We're speaking in favor of their height. I've heard a lot of talk about the love sign. Granted, I didn't install that sign. We've got a truck that has 80 feet of reach. 80 foot of reach puts us to the bottom of that sign. So that sign is a taller sign than 80 feet. I don't know how the permitting was done on it, but that sign is taller than 80, just to give you a comparison.
Any other comments from anybody? With that, I'll close public hearing, and any questions to the staff?
I have a question or a statement. I would like to approve it at 100 feet, if there's a way to amend the written commitment, or that would be my amendment.
We can amend whatever we want to.
My main concern is coming up through there, getting over, if I'm traveling, I want to see that sign, I'm gonna, if I'm looking for a place to stop. And when you get onto that ramp and you're going to be heading north on Chester, that's a squirrely situation right there, because that merge lane coming off of 70, it's not really a, it's you yield, but you really have to stop almost every time. It's the way they've built that, and then jump across, and turn left there, and you have people coming out from Frickers, the other side of the Highland. You guys know that because from the Reed stuff. So that's kind of a squirrely place. So it might get frustrating if a person doesn't see that sign soon enough. I know what you're saying, that 100 feet might not do the job, but it might be better than not seeing it at all until you get past the exit there. But that's just my comment. So.
Any other comments? Staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. BZA 38 is the petition of Chester Boulevard Sales and Development LLC, Bryant Leasing LLC owners, Jason Woker is the agent, located on 4 parcels, including those currently addressed 3208 and 3244 Chester Boulevard and 787 Highland Road in Richmond, requesting 5 variances of development standards to allow an interstate pole sign in the North Corridor Overlay District, increase the maximum number of building signs permitted on a single property, increase the maximum height and area for a pole sign, increase the maximum height for a ground sign, and exceed the maximum total square footage for signs on a single-tenant building in the outdoor commercial and general commercial zoning districts. Current use is commercial, auto sales, and vacant lots. Zoning is outdoor commercial and general commercial, and the combined lot size is around 11.4 acres. Adjacent zoning to the north is general commercial, to the south is Interstate 70, to the east is general commercial and outdoor commercial, and to the west is agricultural. Adjacent land use to the north is 4 single-family residences and industrial small shop. To the south is single-family residential. To the east is commercial, restaurant, and bar, and vacant land. and Interstate 70 highway, and to the west is agricultural, vacant, and general farm. The proposed variances would, number one, allow a pole sign to be installed in the North Corridor Overlay District, which does not permit pole signs. Number two, increase the maximum number of signs allowed on the proposed building from 4 to 5. Number three, exceed the maximum permitted height and area for a pole sign in the outdoor commercial and general commercial districts from 20 feet above ground, 100 square feet, to 100 feet above ground and 473 square feet. Number four, exceed the maximum permitted height for a ground sign in the outdoor commercial and general commercial districts from 8 feet above ground to 14 feet above ground. And number five, exceed the maximum cumulative square footage of all permanent signs on the property from approximately 283 square feet to 782 square feet. On November 29th, 2023, the public hearing was advertised in Western Wayne News. On November 27th, 14 adjacent property owners were notified about the variance and public hearing by mail. We received one response.
John S. Michaels at 9 Holly Lane, Locust Drive, opposed.
Planning staff consulted with all city departments and utilities to determine any objections based on public health and safety. No health and safety concerns were raised. Staff recommends approving the petition to, number one, allow an interstate pole sign in the NCO. Number two, increase the maximum number of building signs permitted on a single property. Number three, increase the maximum height for a ground sign. And number four, exceed the maximum cumulative square footage of all permanent signs on the property in the OC and GC zoning districts. Additionally, planning staff recommends approving the request to exceed the maximum height and area for a pole sign. However, staff suggests limiting the increased height to 80 feet above ground rather than the requested 100 feet. Based on the following findings of fact. Number one, the approval of the variances will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community because the size and locations of the proposed ground, pole, and wall signs will not create physical or visual obstructions for vehicular or pedestrian traffic. Number two, the use and value of the area adjacent to the properties included in the variances will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner because while the North Corridor Overlay District aims to create uniformity among signs along this corridor of US 27, the effects of the district are far more noticeable south of I-70. This stretch of US 27 north of the interstate is not currently developed to the point of having the cohesive aesthetic that the NCO attempts to foster, and there are several legal nonconforming pole signs near this intersection that predate the current zoning code. So the increased height and cumulative square footage of the proposed signs should have a limited impact on the adjacent areas. Most significantly, the proposed pole sign will be located over 700 feet from the nearest stretch of US 27. So while the subject property is located within the overlay district, the pole sign itself will not necessarily consider to the clutter of signs that the NCO seeks to reduce. The ground sign is expected to either satisfy the NCO's ground side standards or seek an additional variance to maintain its current design. Number three, the strict application of the terms of the ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property because the North Corridor Overlay, outdoor commercial, and general commercial zoning districts are able to accommodate moderate to high intensity uses and development standards, but were not designed with highway advertisements in mind. The proposed gas station and convenience store relies on attracting vehicular traffic moving east and west along I-70, and according to the Wayne County GIS elevation contour data, there is a discrepancy of as much as 40 to 50 feet in elevation between the interstate approaching exit 151 to Chester Boulevard from the east and the base of the proposed pole sign. While staff wants to avoid creating a precedence of pole signs along this corridor, strict application of the NCO, OC, and GC pole sign standards under these unique circumstances would limit the business's ability to attract potential customers, particularly westbound interstate traffic. Similarly, the property is located on a stretch of Chester Boulevard where the speed limit is 55 miles per hour, so the requested size increase for the proposed ground sign is crucial to increase visibility along this higher speed corridor north of I-70. There are three rent commitments. Number one is if approved, staff recommends that the pole sign not exceed a height of 80 feet above ground, which is in line with the variance of development standards that Love's Country Store received in 2000 for their off-site pole sign on the northwest corner of the intersection of I-70 and US 5. Number two, if approved, the applicant must either modify the design of the ground sign that was included with the application materials for this petition or apply for an additional variance to seek relief from the NCO district sign standards, which state that ground signs shall require all exposed foundation and sign bases to be at least 50% brick or natural stone. And number 3, prior to receiving an improvement location permit for the project, planning staff and the president of Richmond's Advisory Plan Commission must approve an administrative subdivision to merge the existing parcels into a single property. And I'd be happy to address any additional questions that you all might have.
I don't really have any questions, but again, just in open honesty with correspondence with Dustin, I know what the North Corridor Overlay District is set up to do, and my opinion is it needs to change. Every single stretch, every sign, every business up and down through there comes back to us for a variance to put in a pole sign. In my tenure here on the Board of Zoning Appeals, we've done the car wash, we've done Hardee's. I have, not necessarily everybody on the board. Most recent was Speedway. And like Dustin said in his report, there are several, I guess we did El Bronco too. No, they don't have a pole sign. They got building signs. We did the variance for the size of the building signs. Anyway, my point is, there's a lot of legal nonconforming, like Dustin said, from, Bob Evans and the motel back, all the way down to Reed Parkway, Industrial Parkway, with existing businesses down through there all having pole signs. My opinion, again, it's my opinion only, not that of the Board of Zoning Appeals or the staff, is if we're constantly asked for variance for a pole sign in that district, there's probably a good reason why, Myers got a variance years ago for theirs, and all through that. So it's just an opinion that maybe that district needs to be rethought a little bit because businesses want a pole sign. Just my opinion. To answer your question, Rob, if the board wants to consider approving the 100-foot sign, we would do that in the motion and just leave off written commitment number 1. So with that, if there's no other comments, questions, I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to accept BZA 38-2023 with, including the finding of facts and the written commitments, except for written commitment number 1. Is that correct?
Yeah. that would-
Stated?
I second.
So we have a motion and a second to approve BZA 38-2023 based on the finding of facts and written commitments, number 2 and number 3. Would you call the roll, please?
Kelly Cruz Nicholson,
Aye.
Rob Tidrow,
Aye.
Jeff Cook,
Aye.
Ann Snyder.
Aye.
Motion carries. Good luck to you.
You guys.
That ends all of our new business for tonight. The filing deadline for our next meeting in January of 2024 was today. I'm sure you have lots of surprises for us in the new year, right?
We have 3 new cases.
With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor, say aye.
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 We are adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
You are watching Whitewater Government Television, WGTV, Channel 11, part of the Whitewater Community Television family of stations.